Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the case may be, wherever you're tuning in from, whether you're watching it on live stream, whether you're watching it on playback, same rules apply. You're all same rules, same conditions, same welcome applies. You're all very welcome, ladies and gentlemen, tuning in to another magnificently packed, jam-packed episode of RedFellas, where we discuss the club that is Liverpool, the club that we love, adore, and support. Um, Smash the like button upon entry. There's a nice, healthy number of you packed in here already. People are breaking news to us. Thank you very much for that. Keep us abreast of all breaking news, and we will try to discuss it as much as we can. Even though we'd like to focus on the red fellas, sometimes playing all different colors, but essentially the red fellas. Of course, this show is sponsored by yourfutcard.com, your go-to place for all banners. I've got the website up. I should get that up. I've been fasting. Allow me. It will take me 2 seconds to do it because I'm such a pro these days. Your go-to website for all things banners, footy cards, and football prints. Magnificent website. Doing great work, and they've had a fair bit of business from us. So yeah, keep going, people, keep going, because you help them, you help us, and everyone's a winner, baby. Check out their illustration art. They're always updating it, all the latest magic moments, you could say. You can even request a magic moment and want it in a print form or a banner form. Go check them out, people. And if you type in RedFellas 15, you get a 15% discount. Make sure you let them know that RedFellas sent you, and they'll look after you very, very nicely. Guys, welcome. Hope you're all doing well. Conroy's in the building. Steve's in the building. Dan's in the building. Dan's a lot of people have been asking about where's Dan gone? Dan's a busy man. Dan's busy interviewing the likes of Patrick Berger. Not the left-footed Patrick Berger, but the man in the know with all things Jude Bellingham. He's been interviewing top journalists like Neil Jones, etc., etc. So we're very humbled and privileged to have you back, Dan. How are you?
Very nice of you to say, mate. Yeah, I'm glad to be back. You missed Bolo Zenden off the list. He's probably the top one right now for me.
Bolo Zenden, yeah.
Glad to be back. I appreciate it, mate. I really do.
Good stuff. I mean, obviously, we wish it was in more celebratory circumstances, happy occasions, Liverpool going for the quadruple, because I remember last time you was here, we were on the quadruple charge. Every week was dream until we can't dream anymore. Bit of a nightmare this time round. The dream until we dream motto's gone way out the window. It's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it, Dan? This season, it's the opposite of the dream until we can't dream anymore. It's like someone wake us up out of this nightmare now.
Yeah, I think that's putting it mildly, to be honest with you. It's more like, when will this season end? Like, every game that comes around is just another here we go again moment, unfortunately. And we've had some false dawns along the way. That probably makes it more frustrating in many senses. We've seen a couple of performances where you think, oh, I recognise that Liverpool team. But then very quickly, usually the next game, usually at 12:30, it means that we're back to square one again with this season. It has been an absolute nightmare. And given where we were sort of last season when I was coming on regularly as well, I don't think anyone could have seen this coming. It was hard to imagine that we'd be sat here, an amount of months later, feeling a little bit depressed, crestfallen, and all of the above, really. I don't think anyone thought Jurgen Klopp would oversee such a demise. But here we are, and we've got to talk about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is. I tweeted just before we went live, the rest of you RedFellas. I'm calm. Well, the word I used, or the phrase I used, is the famous boxer's phrase of I'm very feel. And I don't know if you guys can relate, but I've come to terms with it. And the reason why I've come to terms with it is after listening to Jurgen Klopp in the press conference after our latest shambolic, embarrassing, gut-wrenching, cowardly display away from home in the second half. Jurgen Klopp was very calm about it. He was like, I know what I need to do. I know what we need to do. He was very head down, almost a sign of acceptance. Conroy, I'll come to you first. And watching him and listening to him has made me accept, because every week we were fighting with each other and others and other fans and arguing and thinking, no, we can do this, we can turn this around, we do this, and the season's still not dead. I've actually come to terms with it. Absolutely come to terms with it. The war hat you will no longer see. The community hat is on for the rest of the season. I promise you, no more war hat. The community hat is on, and I'm all for just finish the end of the season and we'll go again next season. You know, life's different now, Conway.
Yeah, well, I think that's a way to think about it, Grizz. I agree. I'm kind of, you're obviously still annoyed, but not surprised at what happened yesterday. More numb to it, desensitized. Is that the right word? We said that a couple of weeks ago, to be honest. The maybe only thing you could say is we've turned up for some big games this season, i.e. the Manchester United game recently as well. So you maybe wouldn't be surprised if we pulled off a result somehow, but ultimately, as soon as City scored, it was, it looked like it was only going to be one result. But yeah, you feel calm about it, Grizz. I don't know about that exactly, if I agree with that, because to be honest, Jurgen Klopp said that a lot, and the proof's in the pudding falling. There's been similar press conferences. I'm going to say this, I'm going to do that. At times, it looks like he doesn't really know the answer, to be honest, when it came to tactically this season. And again, we've all kind of accepted that he's tactically showed his adaptability really isn't there. But his initial way of playing, which has been successful, is. And now we're going to see if he can rebuild the team for the first time to do that. And he's definitely, as Dan mentioned, through the performances this season, it really has showed a lot as well, especially for like the way we want to play and the way we just can't change from that. Even when we tried to adapt, and I'm not going to talk about adaptability again because I'm actually getting sick of myself speaking about this on Sunday nights. I think that's very obvious now. What I would say though, Grizz, is it's because it's him and because what he's done. It's never going to be the case of he's going to be sacked or anything like that. So I would probably fall into the same way, thinking that let's just get the season done and let's just get the recruitment that we've all been saying we've needed for a long time done in the summer. But it's kind of bad though that we went from, as you say, last season competing for all trophies, and now we're just going to let's say, what's the word when it's just like kind of phases out? I mean, I'm not having anyone. I've seen rival fans say Liverpool get top four. Like, if you've watched any Liverpool game this season, we've had 3 away wins. Common sense would tell you we're not getting top four. Also, people saying Newcastle wouldn't get the Champions League. I, for one, said they would win today. If you'd watched them in the last 2 games, they've not lost a lot of games. They've been picking up points, and now they're back in form. Again, I feel like there's so many teams above us who are not just suddenly going to say, oh, Liverpool are competing for top four. We're just going to suddenly stop playing. That's not how it works. So, I think ultimately it's just a nail in the coffin yesterday. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I was kind of already on that fence, and I think yesterday confirmed it.
As Terry Mack says, go and grab a coffee. He's grabbing a coffee. Be right back. He's letting us know. Very kind of you, Terry, to let us know. We tried to talk slowly while you're away grabbing that coffee so you don't miss too much. But yeah, while you're grabbing a coffee, make sure, guys, you smash a like button. Everyone in here. Look, the chat is sort of bombarding us with Potter gone. At first, I thought Potts gone. That's like watching Liverpool play when Potts are gone. But Potter gone. All right. Steve, just anything to say about Graham Potter gone? We must address it, I guess, being a football show.
Well, it was a massive job for him, wasn't it, going into Chelsea from Brighton, given the size of the job, the money that they've spent. They kind of wanted instant results. What football club doesn't want instant results? It's never really been right. It kind of transferred the inability to score from one club to another. Chelsea have got Brighton's problem, and they just don't score enough goals. They create openings, but just don't score goals. It's strange timing because they did say they were going to back him, and before we came on air, I did say to you guys that I'd read in a week that if they were to release him and his team, that would take them over FFP with the payout. So there will be sales from Chelsea in the summer. It then becomes a massive.
So repeat what you just said there, because that could be very crucial to some of the things that we may plan to do and suggest. So go on, because people in the chat, people always miss out the important stuff. Steve said something important there, so focus, people.
So
while you're smashing the like button.
It's £51 million to release Potter and his team from Chelsea. That takes Chelsea over the FFP threshold, which means they've then got to release and gain some capital from elsewhere in the club, which would look like sales of players. Obviously, Mason Mount, and I get your point, is somebody Liverpool have been looking at. A quick way for them to get somewhere in the region of £50 million. I don't agree with this £70 million price tag. You can't ask that for a player with a year left on his contract. It just won't happen. So it's all change again at Chelsea. Todd Bowley's first sort of 9 months hasn't been very good, has it, really, when you look at, A, the money he's spent, B, the project, some of the things that were coming out of Chelsea in terms of how he was attempting to do business. Chelsea is a mess, an absolute mess. And the obvious candidate for me to go into Chelsea would be Julian Nagelsmann, which is probably quite pleased he didn't sign any contracts with Spurs yet, because this is a more appealing job with all of those players at your disposal, all of those resources at your disposal. But there's a job to clean out some of the dead wood in there. And there is some dead wood in there. There are some players that need to move on. But, guys, we think we've got problems. Chelsea is an absolute mess. So we should be grateful for small mercies.
I guess that is one way of looking at it, Evan. Small mercies. Graham Potter's gone. We'll get on to what it could mean for us Tuesday. Maybe we'll discuss it at the end. I don't know. We'll discuss it, whatever. But I know you, on the other side of the pond, woke up at ridiculous hours, or did you not sleep? So first answer that question when I let you speak, or when I give you an opportunity, because you know I do tend to speak a lot, so just bear with me. So A, did you not sleep and then had to wake up early? And secondly, because I can relate to you this time, because I woke up at 4 a.m. because I start my fast at sunrise to sunset. So I woke up at 4 or 5 a.m., had a massive breakfast, dinner, call it what you want, because obviously I have to survive the whole day without any food and drink. And then I decided to my love and passion for Liverpool Football Club made me get in my car and travel 5 hours up the M1, M62, because I kind of knew what was going to happen at Man City, but it's the hope and it's the slogan of "You'll never walk alone." So I wanted to be there. So I know what it's like waking up early and sort of committing to this team and everything. I just wanted to know your feelings by the end of the game, how you felt, and then I'll tell you how I felt.
Bored, deflated. Those were sort of my strongest emotions as the final whistle blew. That makes 4 losses and 1 draw for our early kickoffs this season. So I've woken up at 4 a.m. 5 times this season to be treated to 1 point from a possible 15. Not great. Yeah, you know, so Grizz, you got a little taste of my life there. So, you know, it's a fixture which in previous years would have kept me up all night. So in previous years, I absolutely wouldn't have slept. This time I did sleep, and perhaps was, instead of being greeted with the usual emotion of excitement of a Liverpool game bright and early in the morning, which I do have enjoyed for the most part over the last 5-6 years, I didn't feel that way. It was an intense feeling of dread. You really never know what type of Liverpool is going to turn up on any given match day, and nor do you know what type of Liverpool you're getting throughout the 15-30-minute periods in a match. You know what I mean? It's so volatile. It swings so far back and forth. You're treated to moments of brilliance and moments of, just encouragement, like, Salah's opener, for example. But by the end of the day, it was just the exact same patterns, the exact same issues, the exact same feeling of staleness that we all have when we watch Liverpool. We see a team brimming with obvious quality, but for whatever reason are so stale, so unenthusiastic in the way they go about the game. And that in turn made me feel bored, Grizz. I was bored. with that display, especially in the second half.
Yeah, bored. I was tired. I maybe foolishly, naively. I don't know. What made me post a little 10-second clip of me walking out of the stadium with no words, just walking out of the stadium. 10 to 15 minutes early when we were 4-1 down. Because you got to remember, I'm 4 hours away. I need to get home back to London for 7:30 to open my fast. So I wanted to avoid all sorts of traffic. And at 4-1 down with this Liverpool team, with the current state we're in, I wasn't really in the mood for anything else. Dan, going to the start of the game, Evan talks about by the end, it was the same old. Did you see anything different in this team selection and the way we set up? Because it did look something slightly different, I guess. To me, at the game, it looked like a 4-5-1 out of possession, and then a try to be a 4-2-3-1 going forward of sorts. Was there some braveness? Did it make sense to you with the personnel and the team selection? What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually do think you got it right. I was advocating for a 4-2-3-1 from the outset, really, and I was surprised that he went with Elliott. Actually, I must admit, I thought he'd actually go for all four forwards and really make it obvious that he was going for a 4-2-3-1 with a Henderson Fabinho double pivot. But then he kind of did do that in and out of possession in many senses, like you referenced. And it was interesting because normally when we come up against Manchester City, we're obviously normally going toe-to-toe in a title race with them, and we're normally at the peak of our powers, and so are they. So it's really like we have it out with them. It's a basketball game. But on this occasion, it was more, we're going to sit deep and try and hit you on the counter, which surprised me a little bit because I thought we might be slightly more adventurous than that, if I'm going to be honest. Maybe foolishly, because we're playing Man City. We're not very good this season. Like, being more adventurous than that, we could have got hurt a lot earlier than we did. So I think actually Jurgen Klopp got it right from the outset. I think tactically he was actually spot on with the way he approached the game. Team selection-wise, I'd still question the Harvey Elliott inclusion, if I'm going to be honest. And I'm a big Harvey Elliott fan, but he never truly got into the game at any stage. I think that's fair to say. But yeah, I think, like I say, I think he did get it right. And I think that was kind of the proven in how we went about ourselves in the first 40 minutes, at least, I'd say. I think we matched them in many departments. They were better in terms of quality. They had more possession. They were creating better chances. But I think for the way we went about our approach, we were a threat. Like, a couple of moments, obviously, we have the Salah counter, a couple of under-hit passes to get us in again. And I think we can't really do anything else at the minute. We haven't got it in us to go and play City at their own game and kind of match them. So I was happy. I was genuinely happy. I think the issue for me, what was so frustrating about it is we showed desire, we showed fight. There was that moment, like a few minute madness whereby we won 4 or 5 50-50s. Virgil van Dijk smashed into a couple of people. And we were in the studio and everyone was buzzing because it was like, that's what we wanted to see. So that was all there. That was all on display. But that was when the game was level, or we might have been 1-0 up at the time. For me, it all stems back to we've got the physicality to match him. We've even got the quality to match him. What we don't have is the mentality to match him. Therefore, the minute City got a foothold in the game, got the ascendancy, we crumble. We absolutely crumble. That's what this entire season boils down to for me. And I know I'm going on here. But I actually still think we have quality. I still think we have physicality that may be lacking in certain departments. But for me, this is a squad and a side just bereft of confidence. The minute there's any adversity, we are done. Absolutely done. And that was yesterday in a nutshell for me.
I listen, don't worry about going on. I don't want to ask questions and get answers today's show. Honestly, guys, I can't, you're laughing, right? But I mean it. I don't want to sit here like a host, and I just want to talk to fellow-minded Liverpool fans and the community. And I just want to discuss us and where we're at. And Dan's right. I actually want to go one step further. In fact, maybe 2-3 steps further in my criticism. Like Dan suggests, in his opinion, that we've got the physicality and the technical ability to match them. I think we're so miles off. It's unbelievable. And I think it was boys against men for 75% of the game. And it showed, because even though we showed a bit of fight and grit, and yeah, it looked like the players were running around, and it was like, yo, okay, at least show us something. We take a goal lead. I think it was against a run of play. They didn't look threatening, but every time they were in control. It looked like control. I just thought I didn't feel comfortable at any stage. Normally, when we take a lead, how many times have we in the years gone by said when we take the lead, we're much better when we take the lead and we can control proceedings. It was one of those games again where we were absolutely never in control. And we're going to harp on about why we weren't in control, because it's the same effing issues. The reason why we're not in control is because we haven't got controllers in midfield. Technically lacking, physically lacking in my estimation. And now the most damning thing, what Dan's touched upon, mentally lacking as well now.
Yeah, was that for me, Grizz? I wasn't sure.
Sorry, Con. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, the thing is, it's for me. It's you mentioned those issues there. I think Dan makes an interesting point about the tactical, the start of it kind of being reminiscent to the game at Anfield, which is the only time really, maybe that and Tottenham when we played the Diamond, worked for the first half, got absolutely battered second half. No one speaks about that and should have drew 2-2. But Man City at home, it did work. So I kind of get that point there, and I think that's fair enough. The problem I have is it's like game management. Like, we're not talking about a five-a-side team here with your friends. We're talking about players who get paid and train every day to be that. And at times it feels like they've not got a thought in their own head to say, why don't you come here? And just, I know I don't want to take too much of this, but I've got this point here that I've notified and I wanted to mention to everyone. So that's Arsenal, Man City. In the Arsenal game at the Emirates away, we conceded the first minute of that game. One of the biggest games of the season, first minute of that game. So to me, game management skills, attitude, whatever you want to say, ridiculous, embarrassing. A minute before half-time in the Arsenal game, concede another stupid goal, just completely out of position. No reason to give a team that much space. And yet again, yesterday, and I know we'll go into the second half, but just after half-time, exploiting ourselves when we don't need to. The lack of game management of this team, I would go as far to say, see the phrase mentality monsters is as close as there's no point mentioning it anymore, because we've done that much to just go the opposite way. That I don't even want to hear that, because it's actually getting to the point now where I don't know if there's been a team who's been that on top have fell so quickly. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we're just being too reactionary, and that's possibly the case. But those three instances show to me that there's a lack of just game management. Even when we're getting beat and the game's done, we can't just say, right, let's damage limitation. We can't do it. We can't do it. And it's just, yesterday it really annoyed me. And the pressing is a joke. That it's honestly, at times you've got individual runners trying to press. And it's just the line, I think, Evan, you're going to bring it up later, but the line, I think, for the first goal where Grealish passes it across, it's you don't know what they've been working on. It's just all over the place. And as Dan said, I think tactically you can go into a game like that and, formation's right. But at the end of the day, if the players they can't perform or just follow those instructions, that is genuinely not basics, but it's not the most complicated thing for elite footballers. It's baffling. And just last thing, I don't want to go on too much, but it was I've lost my train of thought. It was what I was just going to say there. You just mentioned it, Dan. Oh, what was it? Oh, I'll come back to me. But yeah, on that, I think the pressure.
So many things to unleash. We forget. I know, Conroy, it will come to you. I know it will. Steve, sticking on that first opening, whatever it was, 20, 30 minutes, where we did have glimpses of looking threatening. We were on the verge of creating chances. We were having opportunities to break on them because they were so aggressive in their press. And the reason why I believe they're so aggressive in our press, and the reason why everyone is now cotton on to press them aggressively, is because we're becoming and more easier to play against. I used to pride myself and talk to my fellow football mates who support other clubs saying, I love us. And the reason why I love us is because we're the nastiest team to play against. We're the hardest team to play against. We'll adapt to whatever you throw at us. You want to fight us, we'll fight you. You want to play football against us, we're the total opposite now, Steve. They recognized that not only have they got the physical powers to press us and outrun us and outbattle us, But once we give the ball away, panic, hoof the ball away, we're going to keep them penned in. It was, to me, it was cowardly, Steve. I know we took the lead, and you can maybe touch upon the goal, but then after that, for me, it was pure cowardly stuff. So, yeah, I guess you can touch on the goal to start off with. The only bit of positivity in the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think you're right about midfield being found out. I think teams now, whereas they used to sit in, they now come out and engage the midfield because physically we're not quick enough, we're not strong enough, we can't play on the turn fast enough. And these younger, more athletic midfielders are saying, I'm prepared to take Jordan Henderson on in a 50-50. And I'm not thinking Jordan Henderson out individually there. I could have picked anybody who's played in midfield all season, maybe with the exceptions of the young lad who's out, Percentage, because he's quite adept at getting back and winning the ball back, and that's youthful exuberance, if nothing else, to get him into that position. Our successes early on, and you alluded to it there in your piece, was quick transition. So we had some success in the channels, particularly with Mo Salah against Ake. And the goal comes from quite a direct ball into Jota, and Akanji gets himself in a bit of a mess trying to deal with it. Jota does really, really well because he's holding him off. He's looking for a foul. He's looking for some help from the referee. And the ball breaks to Mo Salah. And as is always the case against Manchester City, Mo Salah comes up with something a little bit special. It's a really, really beautiful finish. Curled away with the outside of his left foot, giving the keeper absolutely no chance. Like Dan says, we were in the game at that stage. And but for Jack Grealish working really, really hard to block an attempted crossfield pass from Mo Salah, which you would think would be 2-0. Mo's just got to stand on the ball there and allow Jack Grealish to keep running and then check back and go across, rather than trying to do what Darwin Núñez did against Everton. That's the moment where Manchester City grew from the moment they thought we could have been 2 down. This is the thing that Dan spoke about, not being able to react to when things go bad, being broken when things don't work. Within a minute of that particular situation where if you get that pass right, we're 2-0 up, we find ourselves 1-1. From that moment on, heads go down, shoulders become rounded, all the leaders disappear, all of the problems that we've seen and we've discussed and we've stressed about over the season all come home to roost at once. So the press, as Conroy says, is a joke. You can't press with the formation that we played, with the players we played in those positions, because they simply don't have the physical attributes to do it. You look at the formation. I know Dan.
Steve, before you go, who has now in this squad got the physical attributes to play that game that Jurgen Klopp has made so infamous and successful for Liverpool? I need to know from any of you guys, anyone in the chat, who has got the physical attributes to play that game? I can't think of one player who's got the physical attributes to play that game. Possibly. I can't think of anyone. Anyone.
Well, let's go back to when we could do it, right? And we're talking 3 years ago. And 3 years ago is a long time in football. It's 200 games if you're playing for Liverpool.
Especially the way Klopp plays.
100%. And I've said many, many times on this channel before, between Fabinho and Henderson, they played 1,000 games in their career. Henderson in particular has played 400 plus games for Liverpool in that system. That will absolutely rinse you out of every physical element in your game you've got. Percentage again would be the only player I think going forward that could adapt to a pressing role because of the defensive attributes he has, being a sort of a converted centre back to a centre midfielder. We stumbled across a blend of 3 centre midfielders that complemented each other absolutely perfectly in Wijnaldum, Fabinho and Henderson. But you're talking 18, 19, not 22, 23. That's 4 years ago. Wijnaldum's gone. We never replaced him like for like, quite simply because you can't replace him like for like. I've listened to Evan speak about this before. The system that we played that brought us all of that success is gone. We can't do that. We need to recognise we can't do that. We need to evolve tactically because the rest of the league have figured out Henderson, Fabinho and Wijnaldum will press you out of the game. Then they've thought, hang on a minute, this can't keep happening every time we play Liverpool. We have to find a solution to this problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to step forward and we're going to engage their midfield. Real Madrid showed people how to deal with Liverpool's midfield by nullifying the spaces in the fullbacks, giving 3 technically okay players loads and loads of time on the ball, but saying to them, can you hurt us? And the answer was a resounding no. So now what we've seen is, add to that the physical decline in all of those players, particularly in Henderson and Fabinho, and we've all discussed this many, many times. These young centre midfielders, your Caicedos, your lads at Fulham are saying, I can go shoulder to shoulder with that guy and I can beat him. I'll just push the ball past him and I'll run him. The second goal, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, Van Dijk was dug out by Rio Ferdinand afterwards for his positional play. There's no midfielding evidence at all for the second goal, none whatsoever. So it's really, really easy for Manchester City to do what they're doing. All boils down to one thing. There's no mentality there anymore. Football is a confidence sport. Football has a human factor to it. We used to think we could beat anybody. We used to think we could bully anybody into playing the way we wanted to play. As you said, Grizz, we were horrible to play against. Kasper Schmeichel said after we beat them 4-1 at their place, that was horrible. We didn't want to play that way, but Liverpool gave us no choice but to play that way. They're so good at what they do. We could not be any further removed from that machine, that particular style of football, if we tried to be. We've lost 13 games this season. 13 games. That's previously 5 seasons under Klopp to get anywhere near 13 games. But this is with 10 league games left to go, and we'll probably lose another before the end of the season. You know, it's a mess in terms of where we are. We should have looked at the squad in the summer and we should have said, can you rely on that man? Yes. Can you rely on that man? No. Can you rely on that man? No. Is he going to be available for 38 games this season? No. We didn't do that. We decided to put all our eggs in one basket and wait for Jude Bellingham this summer. I know I'm bagging on the same drum we've all spoken about week in, week out. Games like Manchester City away, when their centre-backs are sitting at the back of their midfield and they're playing all of their football in Liverpool's half, show me we can't compete. We are so easy to play against at the moment because, quite frankly, guys, we don't have a midfield. And because we don't have a midfield, our back four is under so much pressure. And this is why Virgil van Dijk's copping a load of flack at the moment, because a good centre forward will pull him in a direction he doesn't want to go in. And then he's got to stop and go back to where he started because he's got runners from midfield. So if you want to categorise and find all of Liverpool's problem and put them in and throw an umbrella over the top of it, sort the midfield out, you get your centre-backs back. Until you sort your midfield out, Van Dijk, Konate and all those guys are just going to be besieged by runners, because that's what the teams are saying. I'm just going to run the legs off your midfield week in, week out.
Evan, the equaliser can happen because they're a good team. You can portion blame to maybe an individual, Robertson for overcommitting, Trent being too deep. You know, we've seen it all over Twitter and social media. Blame, no problem. You're away to Man City. They can turn you over in a move. Their switch of play is honest to God, guys. I was sat there with a big, massive smile on my face, like an absolute retard, like an absolute weirdo. Like, why are you smiling? Like, because it was so easy to see what they were doing, and an absolute waffler like me, who has no insight into football tactics, could see what was going on. They were just pulling us from side. Mahrez and Grealish didn't move from the touch lines, making the play as wide as possible. Stones were stepping into midfield, the Philip Lahm role, the Trent Alexander role, the whoever you want to call it the role. I thought John Stones put an absolute clinic in how to actually play that role. He doubled up with Rodri, Gundogan, and Kevin De Bruyne. Ultimately became 2 number 10s. Alvarez was a busy bee, totally different from Haaland. It was so obvious that that was the game plan and that's what they were going to do. But what hurt me, so skip the equalizer. There's only 2 times this season that I've sat down in an away end. And people that go to the games away, and if you sit down, you're not watching the game. That means because you're not seeing anything. I've only sat down twice. Brentford away, when they scored, and I knew that was it, and I just slumped my chair. They went, "What's the matter? Relax. It's Brentford away. We've still got a chance." I said, "No, we're not getting back into this." And the second half, I want to come to the second half because this is the other time I sat down, Evan. And obviously, we're gonna thankfully you've got some captions so we can actually see what actually happened as well. I've never seen us so stupid and pathetic and dumb and tactically, mentally, physically, in every shape or form. You're 1-1 against the team that's flying, who's got your number now. They feel as though they're going to come for you. What you're supposed to do in the first minute, like Conroy said, or first 5-10 minutes, is keep it strong. Start like you started the initial game. I have no idea. I am a defender of Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he gets unjustified stick. I think he's big. I think he's a magnificent footballer, but he's got a lot of things to work on. But I cannot defend, and I have no explanation, and I'm looking for you guys to give me an explanation of what Trent attempted in the first minute after half-time. Because I saw him and I was like, where are you going, Trent? And what are you saying? He charged up the pitch for no reason whatsoever. Once my house breaks down and falls down in the background, forgive me, but he charges up the field and then he motions to Khanage to vacate his centre-back role and go right back. And he does it, guys. I don't know if you saw it on the TV screens. I saw it. And I was like, what are you saying? He's telling Trent, he's telling Khanage, like, I'm going to press the whole team. Where are you going, Trent? It was the most, I could not believe it. I sat down because I was that dumbfounded. Can you give me any insight into what you saw and what actually happened? Because I haven't looked back. I can't be bothered to look back.
Did you want to pull up the captions now, Grizz, and we can go through them? Or so yeah, here's what you're talking about. There's Khanage going over to fill the space at right back.
Where's he going?
Yeah, you can see Kanate's mid sprint over to cover for Trent. Trent's up there trying to press Ake. As you can see, Ake has a relatively simple 20-yard pass along the ground. No red shirt in between him and Grealish.
Because look at the two wide mans, what we discussed. They didn't move from these positions.
Yeah, here's the issue, Grizz. If you have a player who's vacating his actual position by 50 to 60 yards, which is what Trent is doing, he's not doing it just because he feels like it. He's doing it because he's been told to. He has been told, this is the tactical direction. This is part of the halftime talk. Trent, you need to push up higher when we lose the ball in our final third so that we can recover the ball as easily as we can. He's being told to do this. A professional footballer at this level does not vacate their position by 60 yards just on an impulse, regardless of how good or bad you are. That is a tactical direction he has received. All right, so let's dispel that. And this let me expand on this point a little bit, and specifically what's wrong with this image. Man City are an excellent team. They were clinical. They have a bunch of technical quality, and that certainly assisted in them exposing us. However, it did not take them anything special to pass around our press. I am expecting every professional football in the league to make the pass that Nathan Ake does half a second after this screenshot, and it requires nothing special. Look at our press. Like where are we? Where are we? What are we doing?
More important, why are we?
This is the thing. This is the thing. And ladies and gentlemen, please don't chastise me for what I'm about to say. I understand Liverpool have individual weaknesses. Guys like Fabinho and Henderson, there is plenty of evidence of physical decline there. I do not doubt that. Individuals have cost us this season 100%. However, at this point in the season, with the amount of evidence we now have, Sunday, April 2nd, I am so far beyond zoning in on individuals. I am so far beyond that. Take the individuals you dislike out of this picture. Take Henderson out of the picture. Take Fabinho out of the picture. Some of y'all don't like Harvey Elliott in midfield. That's fine. Take him out of the picture. Replace him with Bellingham, Tchouaméni, and Joshua Kimmich. The best midfield three you could maybe design. It does not matter who the individuals are in this scenario. If this is the shape they are being told to press in, this is how they're being told to press, this is when they're being told to trigger the press, it does not matter who the individuals are. You are going to fail. You are going to fail. Klopp has seen our individual weaknesses. He has realized he doesn't have the midfield core to play how he wants, and now he has tried to have us press in this narrow 4-2-3-1 shape to compensate for it. It is magnifying our issues. It is magnifying the deficiencies. It is magnifying the individual weaknesses we have in the current midfield crop, and everybody is suffering. When you look at such a large drop-off, right? When you look at the collective drop-off, what is more likely? That 12 to 15 players have all simultaneously become really shit at the same time, or the system that they're playing in is ill. It is gangrenous. It is an infected limb that needs to be chopped off. What is more likely? It's more likely that the system sucks, right? Than 12 to 15 players all dropping 6 or 7 levels in quality at once. We're just playing the law of averages here. Our system is so sick. And Grizz, I was pulling my hair out in this moment as well. Absolutely pulling my hair out. And this is why I'm so far beyond thinking that Jude Bellingham fixes this situation. I am so far beyond thinking Ugarte fixes this situation. Tchouaméni fixes this situation. What individuals do not fix this situation. This is a systematic thing. And for the record, I do think getting new transfers in the summer, getting new bodies in is a huge part in the Let's Rebuild Liverpool project that's coming this summer. There was a time where I thought that was maybe 70 to 80% of the battle is getting some, 3 to 4 midfielders in. I'm at about 25 to 30%. That's how important I think it is. Because what's even more, twice as important over the summer is Klopp figuring out what the fuck this is. This is all coaching. This is all tactics right here. Yes, we have individual issues. Yes, we have players in decline. I'm not arguing that. But what you're seeing here and why we are the easiest team to play against, I've said it 20 times this season on RedFellas, is because of tactical direction. Sorry for going on.
Just on this slide here, guys. Right. So if we go back to that 3 years ago when we had that midfield we all speak about, Henderson would be the guy that would have come across the cover for Trent. We wouldn't be needing Stuart Khanage. So what we've got, and go back to Evan's point, is we've got a system with players in it. I take your point, Evan. I think the physical drop-off in Henderson and Fabinho contributes massively to this situation. So it's not 7 or 8 players. It's your foundations in your midfield. Everything that goes on in a football match works well if your midfield works well. You defend better, you attack better.
Mm-hmm.
Not your grandmothers to suck eggs when I say that type of thing, but essentially those guys can't cover anymore. So you look at that position there. It's 4-on-3. It's almost 5-on-3 because the guy that's just inside of Jack Grealish is on the turn and is moving away from the centre midfielder. So this very quickly becomes a 5-on-3. What is mad when you go
on? Move it on if you want me to. Do you want me to move it on?
Yeah. What is mad is Van Dijk allows De Bruyne to go in the back of him. The moment that ball's relieved, De Bruyne is actually in an offside position. So this is where the offside rule's a bit mental as well, because this is the same phase of play that he scores from. So if you're going to take it on, maybe the footballing authorities need to look at how Kevin De Bruyne is not impacting play because he scores. But the problem there is everyone's tried to react to that. Andy Robertson's come across because Van Dijk's gone walk around. He's got to cover De Bruyne because he can see the danger. And then the ball around the back of Andy Robertson is on. And this is because when we tried the so-called press, to go back to Conroy's point earlier about it being really poor, they caught 4 or 5 Liverpool players in advance of the ball and started playing football behind them. A ball moves a lot quicker than a man ever can. It's a really old saying in football, but it's true. In this case, we were never recovering from that position at all. Ball goes out wide to Mahrez, I think it was, or Alvarez, and it's Mahrez, isn't it? It's a wonderful ball into De Bruyne. Alisson can do better, if I'm being honest. He takes a step back towards his goal just before the ball comes in. If he holds his ground, there's an easier interception, but that's been really critical. The problem there is, and Evan's quite right, is that the system is fundamentally broken. We don't have the physical attributes to work that system. I don't know why we're trying it. There's the perfect example of how guys who can't run can be bypassed, and a lack of footballing discipline can cause you a major problem because Evan's right. That's a simple ball from Ake out to Grealish. I could do that.
But this is where I want to start an argument, not because just for the sake of, like, people call it clicks and hot takes, whatever, because I genuinely disagreed with Evan, and I don't know if you guys are going to agree or disagree. I agreed with Evan for 85% of what he said. The one part that I want to put the question to you guys, and this is why I singled out Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't think that was instruction. I think he went rogue. That's my opinion at the time. And looking back, because Klopp's reaction was at the ground, guys. Klopp's reaction to Trent was like, what are you doing? So this suggests to me, even though everything else I agree with, it is a systematic issue overall. But this particular incident, and then do you remember, guys, he done something similar later on in this half, was it? Or the first
second half later on? It was second half later
half, where he's gone rogue again. I think this epitomizes Trent's mentality right now. And I know Steve and Evan have had their say. Con and Dan, feel free to jump in, because this is my first bottom. Yeah, sorry, go on, Steve, you can go again. But I just think this was pure brain. What did Jurgen call it? Brain fart or something? Brain fuck or something in a
fog. I think fog.
Yeah. This was pure brain dead.
So the moment Trent goes off on his holiday and people see him going past them and pressing where he has no right to press, somebody from two centre midfielders that don't played 1,000 games so far in their career should have gone, actually, I need to cover that. Instead, Henderson goes and joins in the press. Henderson's miles out of position on that picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on the pitch decisions from lieutenants and chiefs and colonels and all that stuff that solve problems as players during the game, they've stopped happening too. Nobody reacted to and I agree with you, Grizz. I think Trent did that off his own bat. I don't think he was asked to do that. But with players of that, they're internationals. They played 50, 60 games for their countries. They should know better. As soon as he goes past them, there's a danger, and you should be able to see that, recognise that. Henderson goes to right back almost, comes across to that position. And then when we win the ball back, if we win the ball back, Trent gets a bollocking for doing whatever he did. That is a really, really poor team goal to concede. There's so many things wrong with that, from players not reading danger.
For me, it's the worst goal of the season. For me, it's one of the worst goals because I'm taking the match situation, the timing, the players involved, senior players, no kids there. For me, it's, and I know we've conceded some crazy shabby goals, but in terms of coaching, setup-wise and everything else, and lessons not learned from the previous mistakes that we've made, game on, for me, this was the pits, guys. Conrad, I know you have another chance. Sorry, Conrad, you go again. Yeah.
This is I for the record, to sort of correct what I said at first, I do think Trent is doing a overzealous version of what he's been told to do. Is he doing? I think he is following an instruction, but he probably exaggerates it, or it was misinterpreted to him because, again, you're not 60 yards out of position unless you've been told you have the liberty to do so for whatever reason. You know, it is an instruction to press when you have lost the ball in your final third. Does Trent take it too far? Yeah, he probably does. And that's probably why he receives, a lecture from Klopp afterwards. But, let's give Fabinho and Henderson their physical attributes back. Let's put 2019 Henderson and 2019 Fabinho in there. Let's give them their extra 2-3 yards of pace back. There's nothing changes in this situation. Absolutely nothing changes in this situation. So in other losses this season, it was because, like Steve says, teams are like, if we reduce the game to a battle of 50-50s in midfield, we can probably come out on top because their only good 50-50 duelist is Thiago. The other dudes just aren't good enough. In this game, there was hardly any 50-50s in midfield. Hardly any at all. We were chasing shadows the entire game. The system that Klopp has come up with to counteract the weaknesses that he and everybody else can see in the individuals in midfield is exacerbating the issue. It has taken the issue and it has spread it to other parts of the pitch, and everybody is suffering. So when people say, oh, we need to have a conversation about this player, about that player, about this, and I'm just like, what's the common denominator here? Everybody is suffering to a very similar extent. What does that tell you? It tells you the system is deeply, deeply sick and deeply, deeply flawed, especially when you're conceding goals like this. We got nowhere near. Every city player that touches the ball in this move, we didn't get.
Look at this.
We didn't get.
Dan, I think you wanted to. Dan wanted to come in on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Evan mentioned the physicality. If you give it back to Fabinho and Henderson in that situation, there's a possibility it gets resolved. But they're not even near. It's the decision making in that situation isn't there. Like Steve referenced earlier, neither Fabinho nor Henderson has seen Trent go and do that, whether it be by instruction or not. I'm of the opinion that he took it upon himself to go and press, which is wrong in so many senses. But that just boils back to that clouded thinking, and they're clearly not carrying out instructions like they should be doing. And Trent does it again later on in the half, and it's even worse. He actually ends up at Man City's right back, just trying to press on like a lone puller, which is.
And he actually thinks he's doing something.
He does, yeah. But I actually think it's born out of frustration on his behalf, whether it be with the team performance, his own performance. It's wrong. I'm not advocating it. I'm not suggesting he's doing the right thing. I just think there are the reasons behind it. But like I say, for this one in particular, neither Henderson nor Fabinho have seen that and gone, oh, that means there's a space at our right back. I'll get out there. That hasn't even crossed their mind. So giving him physicality back doesn't resolve it in this situation.
But
that's just decision making.
I couldn't agree more. That's what I was saying, Dan. Give them their yards of pace back. Give them their ball winning back. It doesn't change.
It was clockwork. It used to be clockwork. Like Steve referenced. Gini and Fabinho and Henderson, it was absolute clockwork and poetry at times. A, the way we played the offside line, and B, how we knew when to the ultimate gegenpressing, right? We knew how to cover each other, passing lanes, everything that we used to speak about, Sadio Mane. So the fact that he's changed the formation and possibly we don't understand the pressing triggers right now. And this is why one of the headlines in the title of the show was players not playing for Klopp. What I meant by that was not following his instruction. And Conroy, maybe you want to add something, what I mean by that, and maybe try to help me explain what I meant by that. If you know what I mean. If you don't, then I'll give it a shot myself. But what I meant by that was players not following instructions to the letter of the law, confused. Not only the players, but the coaches as well.
Yeah. I think the thing, Grizz, I actually agree with Evan, and maybe in this one Trent's overzealous, but there's far too many examples in the chat. I said there's far too many examples in previous games where Robbo or Trent are pressing at wrong times and there's no one falling in behind. So we speak about lessons learned. We mentioned like the Arsenal away, 2 instances in that game where it's like after halftime, you know what to do, Jurgen? Maybe like tell the players to calm down and let's not go like with the Braveheart speech before they get on the pitch. Maybe let's try a bit of game management for once. Because if you look into that, again, I mentioned earlier, that in itself, it seems like we're not learning any
Conroy,
lessons.
in that case, I'm going to hold you to then. In that case, are you suggesting that Jurgen Klopp has said to them, look, come out second half, we're 1-1 up, we're under the crush at the end of the first half, go out there and press them and go beyond your means? I totally believe he didn't say that.
Yeah, but then.
So then, how is it a Klopp? How are you saying that's not a Trent? That's a Trent.
No, but what I'm saying is he's not making it
that was the game plan.
But is he not making it clear to say, listen, let's say no pressing. Do not try and do that now.
No, not pressing. It's not about pressing. You're losing your position by how many? Wait, hold on. Not 5-10 yards. You're back 20 meters away from the other penalty area for no apparent reason. The game has just started. We're not even in a build-up phase of play. He's just gone AWOL, guys. That is not instruction.
If that's the case, then Grizz, does he need to get dropped for 5 games? Because this is what I mean. It's like, but then we've seen this before. This is not new. We've seen Trent do stuff like this. We've seen at times, you've seen Robertson press where it's like it's not on. And that you can't just be making it up. They can't just be grabbing that. I get what you're saying, Grizz, in this instance. And maybe I actually do agree with Evan. I think it's maybe more overzealous. But I mean, it's not the first time we've conceded so quickly trying to play a way that we can't play anymore. I don't know. I just feel there's so much evidence to back up what Evan said earlier this season that's why I agree more with this.
No, overall, I totally agree.
Yeah.
As I said, 85% of what Evan said, maybe 90%, I absolutely agree with. And I loved it. I enjoyed listening because it's an education, right? But looking at that live and then seeing Klopp's reaction and now seeing these three captions, I'm adamant that was an instruction. Come out in the first 30 seconds and go and press Ake when you got Elliot, Henderson, Gakpo in those areas that are supposed to be doing that job. Because for me, once he summoned Khanage to go over, that is not instruction. Trent's not the coach on the pitch.
But it's his responsibility to communicate with his team. Like, here's the thing, Grizz. Trent should not be doing what he's doing. Nobody disagrees with that. But Trent is doing a version of what he thinks he's been told to do. I'm sorry, but at this level, if you vacate your position by 60 yards without some basis, then you get yanked. It doesn't matter who you are. That's something that could get you subbed off in seconds. So although Klopp gives Trent a telling off, we don't know specifically what he said. He could be having a go at Trent for not showing Ake inside, for showing him outside. Trent, I told you to show him inside, not outside. We talked about this. They're at the root of this action from Trent is the basis of tactical instruction and ethos. Does he make a mess of it? He absolutely does. I personally think he should have shown Ake inside. Look at how many players we have inside. He shows Ake inside. We have them kind of like hemmed back in their half. So there's just no reason. Like if Trent is told to not press and then he does it at this level, you get yanked. You get yanked and you probably don't ever play again. They're at the root of it, Grizz. There's something Klopp has said to his team. No, fullbacks and forward line, when we lose the ball in this areas, we have to be more energetic. We have to keep them pinned in because it's too easy for them to play out. Once Trent starts to press, once he takes that instruction upon himself, he doesn't do the best with it. But the reason he has vacated his position so severely is because he has been told to. And like Conroy says, we have so much evidence of Trent and Robertson just pressing aimlessly. And if we're going to have this energy for Trent, we need to have this energy for everybody else who was chasing shadows all fucking afternoon, because nobody got anywhere near the ball. And then you end up in this situation, which flatters nobody.
They scored. This is the ending.
We've been to City with that midfield that we herald as being the best midfield we've ever had in the Premier League. And we've shipped 4 goals on more than one occasion. So why on earth would you go into a second half and have your team look like that? Now, we talk about the fullbacks pressing. You talk about Robertson pressed Modric in the cup final, and that cost us a goal. You talk about Trent pressing in the way that he pressed today. There's an elephant in the room. I agree with you, Grizz. Trent is a wonderful footballer. But right now, Trent being in the side is hurting Liverpool, because when he's playing well and when he's creating things going forward, you can make an argument to say he's adding value to the team. He's in the team because he's challenging Kevin De Bruyne for assists. That's his role in the squad. Right now, we should have played Joe Gomez. In hindsight, we should have played Joe Gomez because he wouldn't have tried that. He would have been a conventional right back. Trent had a nightmare all day with Grealish, because Grealish fancied taking on Trent every time he got the ball. Right now, having Trent in the side is hurting us. The big question for Liverpool's future is, where does Trent fit in? Because you can't go through 2/3 of a season with every single team creating opportunities in the space your right back is vacating. Whether that's team instructions or not, the right back position is hurting Liverpool Football Club week in, week out. A conventional right back solves some of that problem for me.
I don't want to. Sorry, see, I just have to say, I don't want to go and get a conventional right back or play a conventional right back to put a Band-Aid over a system that is so flawed it's hurting everybody else just as much. Here's the thing, we Liverpool fans chastised Southgate for not finding a way to work in generational Trent Alexander-Arnold into the team in a successful way. And now all of a sudden we want to be like, oh well,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
You have to find a way to play him because he's that good. He's a generational talent when he's looking forward and he's on top of his game. You can't find a way to leave that guy on the bench. Maybe we change the system where we can push him slightly further forward. We've talked about three centre backs and 2 wing backs. That would give you that cover behind him for him to do that. But Klopp will never play with 3 centre backs. So the problem we've got is how we get the best out of Trent. When right now, arguably, we're seeing close to the worst out of Trent in recent weeks.
Agreed. And we will continue to until there's a change. Do you remember a few weeks ago we done the transfer show? And it's very important, not transfer show, but you know what it was called. I can't remember what it was called. 5 in, 5 out, where we solved Liverpool's problems just like that because we're geniuses, right? But do you remember we said it will indicate the signings and the profile of player that we sign in the summer will, to me anyway, and I'll get you guys' opinion, will be indicate of whether we're moving away from that style of football, guys. Trent was magnificent and glorified, and his talents was glorified when we had that midfield. Now, fast forwarding 5-6 years, we haven't got that midfield. So therefore, Steve and Evan are both right in what they're saying, I think, because Evan's suggesting, well, if this is the player and this is his talent, and we've come so far and been so successful with it, why move away from it? And correct me if I'm wrong if you're not saying that, Evan. But Steve's suggesting, but if we're going to continue playing this way, and the profile of midfielder that we're looking towards is a more nimble, ball-playing technician type, Naby Keita, Thiago, Elliott, then he's going to continue to be shown up, I think. So it does indicate that the summer strategy in terms of the profile of player will suggest what the next phase of evolution or plan is. Do we revert back to type, what Klopp knows best? Dan and Conroy, feel free to come in. Or if we continue to buy diminutive number 10 types, Elliott, Naby Keita, all these guys, it suggests then maybe we need to rethink Trent. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, possibly, Grizz. I think you're always going to rely and have your world-class 6, which is what we did have in Fabinho, obviously, and he's probably sort of the catalyst behind all of this in many senses, because he was the best in the world and we did laud him so massively, and rightfully so, in his performances. But his demise this season kind of underpins our entire demise. Like, he's been absolutely miles off it. If you can get another world-class 6 in that role, maybe you can go back to the system and you can still have your more attacking 8 either side of him. I mean, I don't think Evan kind of alluded to the system being done earlier. I'm not with that. I think there is a world whereby this system works again, and the system Jurgen Klopp's trying to employ. I think that can happen. I think the personnel has to change for that to be the case, quite obviously. And you mentioned it a minute ago, Grizz, as well, and I wanted to pick up on it in terms of some of the players not understanding their roles within this side. I think that's absolutely evident. We've tried to turn Harvey Elliott into a midfielder. Who knows if that'll work out in the end? I sincerely hope it does. Cody Gakpo's new to the side, obviously. I don't think Jota fully understands his role in a pressing team yet either. And Darwin Núñez, let me tell you now, from the horse's mouth, does not understand what he's supposed to be doing in a pressing side yet whatsoever. He can't take instructions on board right now. That's literally a thing, and it's a problem, quite frankly, as well. We might have to resolve that in the summer more than anything. He's a very talented footballer. He's rapid. He's lots of good things, but when it comes to understanding tactical stuff, he's not getting it at all.
And I know that for a fact from a horse's mouth. The same was about Naby Keita. Even though physically, when he first came, he was a specimen in terms of his numbers, but in terms of the tactical acumen, it was said. Trusted. He didn't understand that is very important. That is the key to that's the foundation of our tactics, the forward press, the forwards pressing.
Yeah. But we lost that with Sadio Mane, haven't we? Sadio Mane was an absolute genius at it, quite frankly. He started it so often, and that's gone as well as many other things this season. But yeah, just to sort of come full circle on it as well, like I think Trent can continue to be one of the best right backs in the world for Liverpool Football Club. He hasn't been it this season, far from it. Let's be brutally honest about it. But I don't see why there isn't a world where if we have some fixes this summer, and you're right, in terms of the profile and the type of midfielder we go for will lend itself to the way we play next year. the signing of Thiago to replace Wijnaldum was the biggest indicator we had of Jurgen Klopp looking to get more technicians, more control in midfield. Hasn't worked, quite clearly, but has it not worked because we weren't ready for that change, or has it not worked because Thiago doesn't play enough? Harvey Elliott wasn't ready for it.
Answer that. That's open question.
It's 100% because Thiago doesn't play enough. I mean, the underlying numbers for Thiago's game. He's a top 5 center mid in the world. He is one of, if not the purest combination of progressive action and midfield dueling in the world. He's Liverpool's best midfield duelist by a country mile. He's Liverpool's best ball handler by a country mile. The main reason that we lost the title by 1 point, and I know trying to split hairs over last season is so stupid when you flirt with perfection to that degree, but the main difference between Liverpool and Manchester City last year is City got their best midfielders on the pitch 2.5, 3 times as often as we did. You know, I did like an XY graph on it. You had like, you know, Rodri, KDB, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, all up in the top right-hand corner where you'd want to be on an XY graph in terms of minutes played and appearances. And then only Henderson and Fabinho were relentlessly available last summer. Everybody else, Keita, who had good spurts last season, Thiago, just nowhere near available enough. Again, this goes back to people making decisions off the pitch. Injury-prone options have been allowed to accumulate in our squad. We have allowed ourselves to become insanely reliant on Thiago Alcantara, who is the best midfielder of the Klopp era, just as a player individually, zero question about that. But the guy is just not someone you can lean on for 38 Premier League games a season. And real quick, before you come in, I would absolutely be willing to have conversations about individuals. And if things were going well, largely in other departments, like last season, for example, I wrote a dissertation on how I didn't like how far Henderson would press up the right-sided 8. I thought it cost us in certain games, away to West Ham, at home to Brighton. I had a go at Jordan Henderson for his individual performances and why he was a square peg in a round hole, because the collective as a team was very healthy. So when your collective is healthy, you're absolutely within your rights to have a go at individuals. However, because our collective right now is so sick, Andrew Robertson miles off it, Van Dijk miles off it, Trent miles off it, Henderson miles off it, Fabinho miles off it, everybody suffering to more or less the same degree, then conversations about individuals for the most part is entirely redundant, especially when we're talking about an individual as talented as Trent Alexander-Arnold. We all would have considered him a top 3 Premier League right back of all time this time last year at the tender age of 22, 23, however old he was. It speaks so our issue speaks so much to a collective sickness rather than individuals. And although I acknowledge there are individual issues, again, for the 4th time, just want to cover my tracks here. But again, with Trent,
wise guy.
Yeah, always got to cover your tracks. But yeah, I've said my piece. I've spoken too much.
The 2 names in that piece there, and everything you said, Evan, is spot on, were Thiago and Trent. Let's have a look at Premier League as it stands. For 5 years, we've been fighting against a team that plays on the front foot. They're not defensive, they play on the front foot. They tear you to shreds with angles. It's a death by 1,000 cuts against Manchester City. Then their assistant manager goes and creates exactly the same model at Arsenal. We're now dealing with 2 sides that play on the front foot, that don't think defensively, that ask you questions with angles, ask you questions in your own half. There is a time for Liverpool to make a decision. So the decision would be, can Thiago play in the front foot side? Absolutely. Look at his role in Bayern Munich, where he played as a deep line midfielder, not a DM, a deep line midfielder with Goretzka, and did it really, really well. The second thing is, do we sign players to facilitate the re-emergence of Trent Alexander-Arnold? That's dangerous. You can't sign Jude Bellingham to play in the Henderson role from 18-19 because you don't sign a player with that much dynamism in him, that ability to go box to box, to turn him into a ball recycler. So for that reason, don't see how the system can continue. with a Jude Bellingham or similar, or a player of that nature in the team, it would be wrong to pay £120 million for a really, really dynamic midfielder and suppress all of that by making him a ball recycler to protect your right back. So for me, do we look at City and Arsenal and say that's more of what we've got to do? I think so, because they don't have problems with a low block, for instance, and we do. They don't have problems with the mid block, for instance, and we do. So we have to change what we're doing. If we go back to the Klopp mantra of 3 brilliant midfielders that do everything they need to do in terms of the secondary part of the press, once the front 3 are pressed properly, it's the midfield that take the ball off the recipients of the pass out of the back 4, and then you're winning the ball back in their final third, and you're creating questions and creating chances. I don't see how that works with the right back position we've got at the moment. That's a problem we have to solve. How do we get the best out of Trent? If we carry on playing like we're playing, it's always going to be a problem. We'll always have trouble with mid and low blocks, and we won't be a particularly front foot side. Manchester City and Arsenal have now put this thing together where they just destroy teams by creating triangles. We're 4-1 down at the weekend. We've given up. And Manchester City players are working so hard to create angles so we couldn't get the ball off them. Because if they don't do it, they'll get back in the dressing room and they'll rip them all a new arsehole for not doing it. That's the difference right now in terms of what Manchester City and Arsenal are trying to do. And I've said many, many times, when we play well, our system is ruthlessly efficient, but it's also very, very vulnerable when it doesn't work. And right now, it's not working, and we have to have a look at the key protagonists of why it's not working. Can't get Thiago on the pitch. This guy's getting 800 grand a month, and we can't even select him at the moment. Trent playing at right back is exposed by the fact that Harvey Elliott in front of him is a winger being turned into a right centre midfielder in a team of centre midfielders and can't run. So he's added to that problem. It's massive. The decisions that need to be made in the summer are huge. Recruitment will tell us a lot, but I firmly believe if we're going to change our system, we need to learn to play on the front foot. Because if we don't, Arsenal and Manchester City will carry on winning games. Arsenal won 7 games in a row. 2 or 3 years ago, there were only Liverpool and Manchester City that were capable of that. Now Arsenal have added their name to that list, and actually we're not capable of that. So he's got a lot of soul searching to do, a lot of decisions to make about
soul searching,
how he turns around what we've got. Because if we're stubborn and we try the same system next year and it doesn't work, you're going to get the same end result.
Yeah, this system, I completely agree with pretty much everything you said, Steve. This system, this Frankenstein monster system is, I don't know what to call it. It's not something I've seen before. But I've seen us be that front foot team less than a year ago. For the first half of last season's domestically, we were one of the most impressive attacking forces of all time. From like August to January, it was just incredible. The numbers, the eye tests, the wide triangles being created with Henderson, Trent, and Salah on that right-hand side. Henderson, I didn't like him in that renegade role, but the system was great, so we could carry his deficiencies. I think Bellingham could slot into that right-hand side of central midfield in last year's version of the 4-3-3. Not my favorite version of the 4-3-3, but last year's version, it could happen. And Bellingham, he has the defensive attributes that Henderson does not. He's a more effective ball winner than Henderson. Neither of them are elite ball winners, but Jude Bellingham, I think, should be asked to do a little bit of everything at Liverpool, because he is that sort of unicorn profile. There are few people I would stick my chest out and say that we should allow for that to happen. But Jude Bellingham is one of them. And I do think, like Steve says, we need to be a front foot team. And part of that is making sure that Trent Alexander-Arnold is absolutely running things in the final third again. Because last season, it was just uncanny. That wide triangle of Henderson, a player who I didn't like in that role, but because the system was good, it worked. Salah and Trent, they were the XG that they created was just insane, like off the chart stuff. Like ridiculous. And that's because we had a system that was healthy and we could manage the individual weaknesses. We do not currently have a system that can carry people in the way that we used to. So that's why you see individual weaknesses so exacerbated, and hence why I'm hesitant to have a go at individuals while things collectively are so sick.
Conroy has the final say because he's done plenty of soul searching like Klopp has to do in the summer. Whilst we've waffled on, Conroy.
Yeah, no, just on the Trent part, I feel like, you know, we've gave the criticism and it's absolutely due, but we've mentioned this before as well. It's like, okay, maybe we don't want to say generational talent, but it's quite clear, as Evan said, that he's very crucial and he's our most creative player. And it's like, my sometimes issue is the absolute unwillingness to try anything to protect him more, even with a free at the back or putting him in a 4-4-2 out wide. Just try it. I'm not saying he can be a centre mid, and I've said that before, but there is roles where he can be more protected, and he has such an influence on our creative style that if you take him out of the team, let's be honest, I mean, you talk about Arsenal, Steve, you talk about Manchester City, you know what you see with those teams? You know what you see with even top 10 teams? You see patterns of play they've been working on. When Trent's not in that team, a lot of the time, I struggle to see patterns of play or tactics where we're really focusing on weaknesses of a team and more a case of individual brilliance, or Trent does something, or as we say, hoofball, as some of the chat will say. And I feel like, again, it's like looking at, as I think Dan mentioned it earlier, you mentioned it with John Stones. Guardiola, we were comparing these managers last season, but Guardiola will continue to look to evolve. It puts John Stones as like a 3-3-4 he played yesterday. Let's be honest, like, you're never going to see Klopp try something like that. Let's just be honest. That's not the case, right? When it comes to that, he's continually trying to evolve and not make that team predictable. And he might not win the league this year, but I can tell you something, they're going to continue to be a force. And maybe comparison financially, that's not a fair comparison. But what it is they'll continue to try and get the best out of that team and best out the players have got. I feel like we're still trying stuff that's not doing that. And yet again, with Trent, it's like, of course, he's had a poor performance and he's had a lot this season, but he's still our most creative player. The unwillingness to help him and let him be that star. If we don't, someone else will sign Trent and we'll make him that star easily. Like, there'll be managers looking at Trent thinking we could use him this way, that would protect him. And as Evan mentioned about like the XG last season with that triangle, like, he's obviously got that ability to do that. And I just feel like the unwillingness is very frustrating for me, especially when we're not going to make top 4. So you might as well do it. You might as well try a few things towards the end of the season.
Just a little cat amongst the pigeons. Just a side comment. Like Man City would love. I know that for a fact. Man City would love to, and they've asked about Trent's situation because Trent has 2 years left. Pep Guardiola absolutely adores Trent Alexander-Arnold. That just tells you the best coach in world football, probably from a tactical point. Look what he's done to John Stones. Would break the bank for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But we'll save that for another show in the summer to see if we'll be tempted by a £150 million bid for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Guys, the rest of the goals, for me, as I said, I sat down after that, so you guys will have more input and more insight into what those goals were. To me, they were all shambolic. To me, they were all embarrassing. But then, you know, as I said, I've come to terms with what we're going to get from Liverpool. But obviously, we go to Chelsea now. And people in the comments, I've got all your super chats saved. I'll go through them at the end, which is going to be about 5-10 minutes max. Chelsea, Dan, managerless Chelsea. Managerless, even though the assistant that you described sounded like me, fat, bald person with a beard. But, all right, they've got that fella in charge. Does it change anything? Mentality-wise, if anything, does it change anything? Is there, like Evan told us in no uncertain terms, there is no such thing as a new manager bounce?
He did say that, didn't he? Yeah, I remember him saying that. Yeah, it's actually not Billy Reid. I think he's left with Graham Potter. It's going to be Bruno Southall. Is going to be the man who's in charge. I don't know what he looks like, to be honest with you.
Is that not the Brighton's former captain, Bruno? Or am I getting mixed up? Because he was part of
I never knew his surname. He was always just Bruno, isn't it? So he might well be, yeah.
Maybe in Frankfurt, you know.
He was bald, wasn't he, if it is him?
He was.
Yeah, listen, I mean, what does it mean? I'm not sure, quite frankly. I'm a little bit gutted by it, to be honest with you, because I watched their game last night against Aston Villa, and the natives were restless, to say the least, with Potter's Chelsea, and I feel like that could have played into our hands.
Rejuvenate the crowd. It's gonna, if nothing else, it's gonna rejuvenate the crowd.
Exactly. Yeah, it will. Yeah, I think they were pretty much to the end of their tether with Potter, really. They haven't liked him since day one, I think it's fair to say. They haven't enjoyed the football too much. And I can see why, I really can. I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did, I must say. But it did feel like with all the noises coming out with Todd Bowley and stuff that they were just going to continue to back him. So I guess it kind of has come out of the blue a little bit in that sense. But in terms of what it means for us, it's just the last thing we need. Like I say, an upbeat Stamford Bridge now. The players may be trying to impress whoever the new man's got to be, whether it be Nagelsmann or Zinedine Zidane or whoever coming down the line. So Liverpool don't need any encouragement to play poorly or to get beaten away from home this season. So Chelsea and a new manager in place, or maybe a new manager to impress, like I say, is not ideal at all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I feel like it'll, to be perfectly honest, I feel like it may already, they already may be not for it anyway. I mean, you looked at the game at Anfield and we turned, I think someone tweeted earlier, we made Murdoch look like prime Ronaldo in that game. And then obviously his career's
And
went
since then, yeah.
Since then, but I feel like, as Evan said, we're the easiest team to play against right now. So we could make some players who are performing averagely look much better. So hopefully that's not the case. But I'll be honest, guys, not to be the consistent pessimist, but I'd love it. I'd bet your hand off for a 0-0 draw right now. A terrible 0-0 draw would be brilliant.
You can wave goodbye to top. You can wave goodbye to top four if that's the case.
I already waved it.
Gotta
win. I've waved it.
No, Grizz. I mean, absolutely, and I get what you're saying. That I agree. The way we're playing, it's a step too far to get to that. But mathematically, if we take 1 point from 6, we needed to take 5 or 6 points out of these 3 games. Hear me out. To have any chance. Not because I think we will do it, but mathematically to have any chance. Newcastle winning today really makes that much more complicated. I think it's done. The top 4's done for us. But you know, guys, how far have we fallen if we're sitting here and we're pitching for 0-0s away at a crisis-torn Chelsea side that've got 33 players and they don't know what to do with them. So I'm the eternal optimist. I hope we go there and make a much better account of ourselves than we did at the weekend.
Evan.
I'm kind of just done looking at the Premier League table. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of doing all the math. I think Steve's right. I mean, I don't think any of us harbor any realistic expectation for a top 4 charge, considering it's 11 games left. You would probably have to win at least 9, because at least 4 teams have it in their hands to make top 4. We would have to root against them and be nearly perfect ourselves. Yeah, I just want to feel good, and also what I need between now and the end of the season is I need to see a distinct shift in shape. I need to know, or I need to feel that shiny new toys like Jude Bellingham or any of these guys. I need to know they won't be walking into the exact same shape that we are currently seeing, the exact same ethos we are currently seeing, because if so, like I said, shouldn't expect to be too much better off.
Fair enough. I think that's where we're going to end the chat. I think my main talking point did stir the pot like I think I knew it would. So kudos to me again. Got us fighting and arguing. I love a bit of passionate debate. I knew that would. Just a couple of super chats that I want to get through, obviously. And Mohammed says, unsure how intense Hasenhutl's pressing was at Southampton as compared to Klopp's, but even he admitted that he dropped it because players were rinsed halfway through the season. System issue? Boy, did we discuss that, Mohammed. So thank you very much for this super chat. We did actually go on to discuss that. So I hope you were satisfied with our chat around it all. Solomon says, John Stones, what centre-back can operate in the midfield like that? Very quickly, very impressive. England's best centre-back, guys? Anyone better than England's best centre-back right now?
Probably not, no. But we made it easy for him, to be fair, playing that centre midfield role.
Okay. LFCR 786 says, anyone who blames the players needs to wake up. How can you expect the same core 11 to play at full throttle for 5 years with minimum supporting squad incomings? They've every right to down tools.
2 words: Real Madrid. They fly in the face of that argument.
I don't think they're down tools. I take umbrage with that.
No, sorry, Dan. In the sense that you can't expect the same 11 players to consistently perform over 5 years.
Different style though as well, isn't it? You're talking about the 3 of the best like ball handlers and technical midfielders. Like you don't expect Luka Modric to be an athletic midfielder running like engine room. They're there because they're the best.
They do a lot less running. They did a lot less.
I'd like to point out that they've bought 3 of the 4 best athletic young center mids in world football over the past 2 years as well. They've refreshed this aging core in ways that we could only dream of.
Camavinga and Tchouameni. I mean,
Camavinga, Tchouameni, Valverde. You know, they've really like refreshed it.
LFCR sends in another super chat. Says, imagine what VVD, Ali, Trent, Mo, etc. were thinking when the window closed in the summer and Jan. They just signed new deals. They probably felt betrayed. Zero ambition from the top. Disgrace. And not a super chat, but the tallest 93 says, facts Evan on smoke tonight. Did you notice I took off my jacket? It got very hot.
And you know,
brought the heat.
I appreciate it, and I also want to thank my fellow panelists for letting me have my impassioned rant. I probably spoke as much as anybody needed to, so thank you for tolerating me.
No, we needed it. We needed it. As I said to you, I didn't want to make it a question and answer situation. And this show's not about question and answer. It's just about what we do best, and that's have a chat about the RedFellas. Pick up the RedFellas, smash the like. Tyrone says, yeah, even on your way out, guys. And that brings a conclusion, I guess, to tonight's episode. No rest for the wicked, I guess. Dan and Steve will be absolutely busy this week because you've got so much content to do over at Redmen TV. Make sure you go check out Dan. Make sure you go check out Steve. Doing great work over at Redmen TV. A lot of questions about the draft. It's not Evan's fault. It's actually all of ours fault. It's the system, not the individuals. So
it is.
Don't think it's the system that is ultimately my fault, really, I guess, because I'm FSG here right now. So it's not Evan's fault. People are saying, where's the draft? We'll have to bring out the draft in, I don't know when. I can't
Grizz is just not bringing in the reinforcements. So he really is FSG in this scenario.
I'm so loyal to Evan. Like Jürgen Klopp, he's my Milner. So I'm just refusing to replace anyone who can do the draft like Evan can. But we will try to do it somewhere, someplace. We haven't forgotten it. But yeah, we will be back for more post-match reaction. Of course, we've got Eurostars on Thursday where we'll be picking the bones of all the top action in Europe. We will be back for, as I said, post-match reaction to Chelsea. Then you've got, wow, we're looking forward to Arsenal. Potential champions come to Anfield. What a huge week. It doesn't stop. Just like the RedFellas. Last super chat of the night, he says, check first Man City goal was offside and Rodri no second yellow. Yeah, look, I didn't want to speak about, like Klopp said, I've taken from Klopp's stance, guys. What did Klopp turn around and say, guys? He said, even with 10 men, I doubt we would have won. So if
10 men as well, so.
If Jürgen Klopp is saying that, guys, what's left for us to pick the bones off? But listen, appreciate the love, appreciate the support. We are out of here. This has been RedFellas on Sunday night. Smash the like on your way out. Take care. Peace.